Good evening and welcome to this edition of Newsnight. My name is Charles Odongtho, and this evening I'm with old man of the clan as usual, Andrew Mwenda. You're most welcome back.
And also? He
is the CEO of the Independent magazine. Free advert that NTV gives you all the time.
And you forget Mender really of Broken Hearts.
You should really thank Morris, you should thank Agnes, you should thank the guys of NTV. Free advert like this every day, not easy.
So, question. You should also inform young ladies whose hearts are being broken. They can come to me to mend them.
I can tell you, that's not for today, but I wouldn't trust you with my sisters to come to you for advice. Now, Andrew, very quickly.
Yes.
I have been reading the new executive, I think, is it the executive editor of the Monitor, writing so many articles and taking certain decisions that some of them you have been privy to. What is this going on?
No, I'm not privy to. He has the
Actually, you have exchanged emails.
He has published them. The first article he wrote was to state the basic principles of journalism.
Yes.
That if you're a journalist at Monitor and you're going to publish a story, there must be a checklist of things, boxes that must be ticked. And I think that's very, very important for our profession. What does it talk about? Yeah. So we must be truthful and accurate. That's the canonical principle of journalism.
True, true.
2, we must be fair and balanced. 3, we must provide context. So if you read those things, they are the ABC, what you'd call journalism 101 at university. And I am sure he was able to understand that not just at Monitor, sometimes at Independent, sometimes at New Vision, at the Weekly Observer, these principles are not followed. And he's saying, basically, let us follow those. The second thing is he wrote a second article saying we will not allow journalists at Monitor to write opinions in the newspaper, to appear on radio talk shows, on television talk shows, to write on their Facebook pages, on their Twitter, or any other form of social media, blogs or microblogs.
Isn't that draconian? And going against the tenets of journalism and free speech and freedom of speech and all that.
I wrote to him a long email explaining, expressing my concern that journalism basically is about finding facts, and journalists must get public opinion through opinion writing. And even, by the way, he has even stopped Monitor journalists from appearing in a public forum to speak and give their opinions. And I was saying, then you're taking away how can Monitor promote free speech when it's suppressing its own?
Yes, yes.
But he replied, and I may not agree with him entirely, but I sympathize with where he's coming from. He's saying that what he found is that many journalists listen to rumors on the streets, not all, but many journalists listen to rumors on the street, gossip in bars, and that is what they take as fact, and it informs their opinions. And therefore, what they are doing is they're giving an informed opinion.
So is that the context from where he's coming?
Yes. So he said, I'm adopting a hypersensitive model, a hyper-strict model, initially in order to create a shock, to get journalists to begin thinking. And now, of course, in many of his decisions and writings, he has also made mistakes like all human beings do. But to point out some minor mistakes in his approach does not take away the general message he's giving us, not just as journalists at Monitor, in the way the Ugandan society. How do we construct journalism? How do we make journalism a respected institution such that when a journalist speaks, people want to listen? You see, I'll give you an example. There were electricity subsidies in this country. I did an investigative report on who benefits from electricity subsidies, published in the Independent. The president, on that basis, called an emergency cabinet meeting, and the government of Uganda ended the subsidies. That is what journalism should do. We must be able to investigate that even those who disagree with us are so impressed by the degree of facts that we have brought on the table that we're able to influence policymakers through the quality of our work.
But are you saying, Andrew, that there is no good journalism in the Observer, that there is no good journalism at the Monitor, where Gibson is complaining about, there is no good journalism at the New Vision, and and that it is only at the Independent? Is that what you're saying?
I am saying,
how does that reflect?
I never said only at the Independent. In fact, I said
because you're saying the Independent has done it, and it also led to the...
I am saying even at Independent, we have those weaknesses across the media spectrum in Uganda. Even at NTV, these problems are there. And the new executive editor at Monitor is challenging us. And for me, I believe if you are, every day, me and you, Charles, we say government is corrupt and incompetent, don't we? But
with evidence, when we have them.
But let me tell you, there are many institutions of government in Uganda where you have people who are honest, hardworking, and competent.
That's true.
You see, but we make a generalization. So if we tell people in the government that there is corruption and there is incompetence, we want them also to respond, not by just dismissing us out of hand, but examining what is the evidence these people are bringing on the table. So we can look at the performance of schools. Research that has been done. Poor performance in public schools. About 60% of the kids in P1 up to P4 cannot neither read or write. So they should be able to listen and take action. Even us, when we are criticized as journalists, we make our careers by criticizing others.
That's true.
Hold a second.
Just a minute.
People, therefore, we as journalists must be open to criticism. When Malcolm Gibson criticizes us, it should not be a point for us to become defensive.
Yeah,
we should
agree.
become reflective.
I agree, Andrew. Actually, I talked to a number of journalists at Monitor, and I have been reading Gibson's articles. They are very interesting. They open the mind. But I think what they are
not opening the minds of many journalists.
For me, they are opening my mind to some of these tenets, to some of these values. Now, the thing that I see that the journalists of Monitor are entitled to do is they are saying, why are you writing some of these things without telling us in the meetings or telling us that these are the things we should do, but you write and say you are only spewing gossip, you are spewing rumors unfounded out there in the media.
Either those journalists are not honest, because these are things he has discussed with them in editorial meetings, and two, in his even first article he said, look, the work we are doing is public work. We do not do it as a private conspiracy inside the Monitor. We are doing work with our readers out there.
Yes, true.
We need to share the reforms we want to carry out with our readers. We must be transparent. Our readers must know, where are we coming from? Are we an institution that recognizes our own internal mistakes?
True.
Do we say we want to win your trust? And should we involve them in that conversation? And he believes...
Would you do that? Would you do that for the independent?
Please. Can I finish my point?
Yes, but you should be answering some of these things that are coming as rejoinders as well.
Yes, but please let me first finish my point, then you raise a question. So the man is saying the readers are participants. They must not be excluded. So we must be transparent. They must be involved to know where we are and where we want to go, and the mistakes that we want to correct. That is one. Two, even I at the Independent, I believe if you look at the founding document of the Independent, we were making a promise that we will be truthful and accurate, we will be fair and balanced, we will do deep and analytical research, we will not be covering news for the sake of it, we will interrogate the opposition and its claims of what it wants to do, we will interrogate the government, we will not distinguish between the opposition and the government, and we will be independent. Of course, many people in the opposition wanted us to be a spokesperson of the opposition. So when we refused to take that position, of course, they said the government has bought us. But even whatever accusations they bring, we have remained true to our values. Now, we do not always live to those values. Sometimes our stories are not properly investigated. Sometimes we have so many editorial mistakes or grammatical mistakes. But here is the bottom line. The man has started a conversation, and I believe we must have that conversation with an open mind, not with a defensive mentality.
Brilliant. Let's come down to the issue of the social and political configuration of this country. Has Gibson, with due respect to him, in his own, the time that he has taken here, about 2 or 3 months or less than, of course, a year, has he studied to understand what is the social configuration of this society? Does this society take some truth the way they are in the open and discuss them in the open? Has he understood what is the political dynamics of this country that makes Monitor operate the way it is, NTV operates the way it is, and New Vision not that way? Has he taken time to study that? That
is both, if he has taken time or not taken time, that his, the fact that he's not from Uganda is a strategic risk and also a strategic advantage. How is it a risk? It's a risk in the sense that you cannot influence people unless you understand where they're coming from. True. It's a strategic advantage in the sense that if you get too rooted in a particular culture, then you may not be able to change it. I'll give you an example. Why do you think Pike was successful at building a very successful newspaper called New Vision?
It's because a business.
When people wrote to him cheats, if he was rooted in the Ugandan system, if you're working in the government, when the minister writes a cheat, you hire somebody. But in his culture, I believe that's a wrong thing. So many Ugandans realizing he was a Muzungu, they're willing to ignore him. He does not understand our ways. Maybe sometimes when you don't understand people's ways, then you're able to create change. Yesterday I was telling you, a lot of the criticism about Museveni running around with envelopes and giving them to people is a wrong thing, technically. But perhaps you may not lead this society without doing it. So a transformative leader here may need to be one who is so blind to the idiosyncrasies of our societies. Then his or her blindness may facilitate his ability to reform the state, and therefore it works in a different way.
They say sometimes ignorance is an advantage.
It can be an advantage. That's what I'm saying, that you may find that his lack of a deep understanding of our political dynamics may be an advantage to him, although it also has an aspect of disadvantage. But the final point I wanted to make is that...
as we wind up.
Yes, is that the Ugandan society can be changed. The journalists of Uganda have become too Ugandan, and therefore they tend to reproduce the prejudices of this society rather than to produce the right information that can offer qualitative change and promote reform. Well, thank you so much. That was Andrew Mwenda, old man of the clan, and my name is Charles Odongtho. That was Newsnight.